Well, Tesla CEO Elon Musk's plot to purchase Twitter may go through after all. Earlier this week, Musk filed a proposal in court that would see him purchase the social media platform for $54 per share under the same terms that were set all the way back in April. Imagine that. Twitter, which sued Musk for $44 million in July in an attempt to force the deal through, said they will accept Musk's offer at the original price after all that hassle. According to reporting from Bloomberg News, Musk's about-face comes after the billionaire's legal team determined the case was not going well. Apparently, Musk claimed that Twitter lied about how many bots are on the platform, were proving tricky in court to bear that out. Joining me now to weigh in is Mike Solana, editor-in-chief at Pirate Wires. Mike, so great to have you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I recommend everyone go to Pirate Wires and read what you've written previously and just recently about Twitter and what Elon Musk is doing. You, like myself, I think, have been critical of a lot of mainstream media framing of how this will not only break Twitter, but utterly break our democracy and our society if Elon Musk goes through with the changes he's going to make or intends to make, has said he would like to make. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of level of apocalyptic fear about what is the problem with more people speaking or less guardrails on political conversation?
Right. I mean, I think that they should be concerned because everything that they want is now threatened. But what they want is not free speech. What they want is not an open platform for talking about politics. They want censorship. They're very clear about this. They talk about it over and over and over again. The phrase free speech is considered a sort of right-wing dog whistle for them at this point. And I think a big central part of all of this is the Trump stuff, this very clear example of political censorship in private text messages that were subpoenaed by Twitter and went public last week. It's very obvious that not only Elon, but many people behind the scenes are like, this Trump thing was a really huge mistake, a massive overreach, and we need to correct it because we've alienated half of the country. We have become a platform for really the Democratic Party, and we need to be a platform for America. So the journalists who are mad about this, they're the same journalists who believe that we need just more censorship across the board. And that's a very sort of mainstream opinion now among media. And Elon's just very sort of ideologically opposed to that.
What gets me is that we have so many now concrete examples of the kind of guardrails in practice having gone wrong, having gate kept behind a gate, some piece of information or some discussion that was perfectly legitimate, including the Hunter Biden laptop story, which now everyone, even the former CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, admits was handled wrongly by the platform, that it was a legitimate story and should not have been suppressed, to various COVID topics where I think actually Facebook has been much worse on that regard than Twitter in terms of what you were allowed to say about the origins of COVID, that stuff. Now there's much more agreement even among mainstream people that, okay, it's all right to scrutinize some of these subjects. So in so many of those cases, right, what the mainstream media wanted to force on the platform, or the rules, if they had been allowed to write the rules, they'd been so unfriendly to discussions we ought to have, which to my mind, you would think that might make them more humble about saying that, yeah, it's really important to limit the range of permissible speech. Yet it's the opposite. They're sensational. They talk about how this will be the end. Ben Collins is really what got me thinking about this. He's an NBC reporter, and he says there's enough time if Musk gets hold of the site that he could change the outcome of the midterms by changing Twitter's policies, which I think that's kind of ridiculous. But what do you think about that?
I mean, again, what he's really worried about is that he and his friends won't be able to change the outcome of the midterm elections by manipulating speech on this platform. That's their entire tactic, is to say, entire spectrums of thought are evil or dangerous. Violent increasingly is what we're seeing. People are being blamed for what other people do based on their speech. He uses this to silence entire sort of chunks of people. I think it's funny that we keep bringing up the Hunter Biden laptop story. Pro-censorship people really hate this. And they're like, why are we still talking about it? It happened one time. And it's like, we're talking about it because it's a huge deal that interfered in a major presidential election. And that should have been, like you said, that should have been the moment that everybody realized these powers are too great and the censorship stuff is too dangerous and we shouldn't do it. They don't learn that. I think partly I wish the sort of free speech people would wake up here and stop pretending that everyone's on the same team. This is an information war. And these people who are furious today about Elon understand that it's an information war. They're trying to control the platform by, changing the bounds of acceptable speech culturally and demanding that censorship happens on these platforms. And they've been winning for years. This is, like you mentioned, huge topics, COVID, the Hunter thing. Like this is never going to stop happening until we change the rules in the platform. And like I said earlier at the top of this thing, like these people should be nervous. If Elon actually takes control of the company, and I'm still not entirely sure that's going to happen. I mean, this is a wild story. I doubt that it's over, but if it does happen, then yeah, they should be nervous. This is a huge blow to their power.
I saw some mainstream reporting today about the potential deal where a lot of Twitter employees apparently have said, maybe every Twitter employee that this reporter talked to said, yeah, if Elon Musk takes over, I'm going to quit. And right, I think probably many of us are thinking, great, good, go.
See you later. I mean, this is like, I think, so Tom Guerra quoted this story, and I kind of responded to it, and he mentioned, I was saying basically like what we're saying now. It's great. You want to leave because you don't want to work for Elon. Well, I mean, the bigger problem is not that these people are leaving. The bigger problem is that a massive, maybe majority of Twitter employees seem to be dogmatically obsessed with political censorship. And then Guerra was like, I think maybe this could be just the problem of the New York Times is only speaking to the craziest people. This is a broader tech press problem, is that all of the reporters, all of their contacts are crazy, like sort of deranged activists. I do think the Times reporters are better at this, but certainly that was an opinion piece by what's his face. That it's very different. In general, this is it could be some mix. It's like either the employees relatively or generally are into the censorship stuff. It could be they just don't want to work for someone who's going to make them work. I mean, this is a huge mature tech company. The salaries are really high. The demands for work are not very great. I think when the story first broke back in April, like they were in the middle of a mental health day or something. I mean, it's like very kind of like an anti-work culture. So it could be that they're upset about. But in general, anyone who wants to leave, I say that's great news for not only Twitter, but for America. And I encourage all of the other social media companies to never hire these people again.
Yeah, your point about the journalists talking to the activists on this issue is so true, because so much reporting and commentary from the mainstream on what's going on in the tech world is it doesn't admit that a little bit is industry competition, right? Is media, other rival media organizations frustrated with how dominating some social media sites have become, and they think that's bad because no longer can they tell you exactly what you're allowed to discuss. Like it's outside these media properties' control, and also their whole business models are to some degree have been built around succeeding on some of these platforms, and they don't like it, and that comes through in their writing and their reporting, and they found people in the tech community who also feel that way, or who think tech is bad broadly, is like horrible and addictive and ruining humanity. And then that is like the message that it's a one kind of narrative thing about tech and I know you're more kind of connected to tech people. Is that broad like fatalism or pessimism about media innovation actually shared by most people working in the industry?
No, it's definitely a minority of activists. I mean, pretty much everything that comes out of Apple it's coming from like these sort of like in-house class of activists they have sort of for some reason hired and refused to fire. Every sort of major crazy woke story that you read, I think the company runs with it because they are more than happy to seem like they're peacocking virtue while building our phones with literal slave labor over in China.
Yes.
I think that in terms of the sort of tech press problem generally, yeah, I mean, like the average person is in tech because at this point it's a very good job. I'm just going to be honest, like for the big, huge companies, and then at startups it tends to be more ideological and exciting and new. But no, the activist class does not speak for everybody.
They never seem to, but they sure do get a lot of attention. Mike Solana, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.